Part 3. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 21. A young man shrouded in black mist, the totem between his eyebrows looks like a ferocious beast dormant deep in the abyss. He actually took the Xuanhuan fruit, and no one knew what he was going to do. When his momentum unexpectedly increased, Xuanhuan shook his head and smiled helplessly. You actually want to defeat me by taking a magical medicine to temporarily increase your strength, but you don't know that this will destroy yourself. It's not just Xuanhuan who thinks this way, I'm afraid everyone thinks this way. It is true that some people take elixirs to improve their strength during battles, but firstly, they are not of the Xuanhuan fruit type, and secondly, the side effects after the battle are huge. Only people would take such risks in a life and death battle. At other times, it can be said to be quite stupid. I didn't expect this Zhang Zizai, who looks smart, to be so stupid. Zhang Lao waved his hand, and his hanging heart was completely relieved. Qianyu gave him too many opportunities. Zhang Entropy was a little dissatisfied. At this time, Qianyu looked at him and understood what he meant. This is the best chance to send him to hell. Even if someone pursues him, they can say that Zhang Zizai himself is crazy. Qianyu understood and said nothing more. He picked up the eagle sword, tapped his foot lightly, and appeared like a ghost, flying towards him like an arrow from a string. And Zhang Zizai, with a low growl, also rushed forward. Only when he took action, people were slightly shocked. The medicinal effect of Xuanhuan fruit is so good. People were quite surprised to see his overall improvement in speed and momentum. Qianyu was also surprised when his sword was knocked away by Zhang Zizai's Yanlong punch, but this only made him sneer in his heart. To deal with me in this way and spend your future progress, you will only end up with hatred. Ridiculous. His swordsmanship was more fierce, but the more he fought, the more surprised he was. Why did this guy become like a monster? Qianyu. Zhang Zizai growled, her dark eyes locked on him. My surname is Zhang, Qianyu said. Zhang Zizai didn't listen to his words. He punched one after another, occasionally switching to thunderous fingers, his eyes still cold. Back then, I saw how pitiful you were and brought you back. Today, you made your own choice. I don't blame you. It's a pity that we are not destined to be brothers in this life. Maybe I am really at fault. For you to be so dissatisfied with me, maybe I, my brother, did not do a good enough job to make you hate me so much. These are all my fault. But, since you are standing on the opposite side of me today, since you also want to kill me, you can have a glorious future. Then I also said that we have severed ties with you a long time ago, and I will personally send you to hell. There is no distinction between good and evil, no one is at fault, only who is stronger, right? After hearing so much, Qianyu said disdainfully, it's all nonsense, you loser, how do you have the qualifications to compete with me? That's right, I will send you to hell, I won't have any psychological burden anymore. Zhang Zizai's voice suddenly became hoarse with coldness. Everything is explained clearly. He suddenly opened the door wide, allowing Qianyu's sword to penetrate easily, piercing his lower abdomen, and the flying eagle sword passed through Zhang Zizai's body. There is only 1 inch away from Shank Point. It was similar to the sword he used to stab Lu Dingxing before. Everyone exclaimed, this time, Zhang Zizai was finished. Maybe Qianyu didn't expect that Zhang Zizai would be discouraged so quickly and let him pass through with his sword. He relaxed. It would be easy to kill Zhang Zizai now. Just relax in this moment. His collar was suddenly grabbed by Zhang Zizai. A sword passed through his lower abdomen. Of course, he was very close to Zhang Zizai. When the collar pulled Zhang Zizai and looked up to see his eyes as dark as ink, Qianyu panicked and knew that something was bad. Next, Zhang Zizai made 2 moves. 1 pull, 1 punch. The moment he was pierced, He pulled Sukyunyu's head to his eyes, and the divine dragon on the flame dragon's heavy fist in his right hand roared. Boom! That punch hit Sukyunyu's temple hard. When the force of this punch was so great that Sukyunyu's head hit the ground directly. Click! On impact, there was even a shattering sound. Everything that happened suddenly was so swift and brutal. People just stared blankly as Zhang Zizai, who was covered in blood, took out the flying eagle sword from his body and held it in his hand. This sword is what I, the elder brother, have repaid for my bad treatment to you over the years. He fought for his life, and the sword almost hurt his vital part. What he got in return was a punch that hit the target. Sukyunyu was lying on the ground, with only his fingers still moving. In the dead silence, Zhang Zizai turned his body over. Only the whites of his eyes were visible, but he was not dead yet. At this moment, Zhang Zizai suddenly took out a piece of paper from his pocket, and the blood on his hand was completely stained on it. Hoer, this is Xuanhuan's suicide note. She didn't dare to leave it to you, she only left it to me. Zhang Zizai's voice was hoarse. Although it was not loud, it attracted everyone's attention. All this has long ceased to develop as everyone thought. He unfolded the letter. Then, he chanted softly with a wry smile. Brother Zizai, my brother is very pitiful and very ambitious. Xuanhuan is gone, you must take good care of him. If he gets impatient, sing him the song Xuanhuan taught you. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. He is like this, he wants to do everything the best, but sometimes, he is not so likable. I hope Brother Zizai can tolerate him. This disease cannot be cured. I once wanted to repay you, work like a cow and a horse for you, and I didn't want anything, I just wanted to serve you for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, Xuanhuan has a bad fate. Goodbye, I hope I can be a happy person in the next life. At the end, Zhang Zizai thought of the poor girl and his voice choked. Why are you like this? Why can't you learn even a little kindness from your sister? The flying eagle sword was against Sukyunyu's throat. He was a little hysterical. This blood-stained boy didn't cry during the battle, but his eyes were red at this time. Men don't cry easily. If possible, he would never want to stab his brother with this sword in his life. Ugh! It was not until this time that Sukyunyu's pupils turned back. What do you know? If a man does not work for himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. Sukyunyu coughed and stared at him. He had to get up and continue fighting. You can't beat me, this is fake. Sukyunyu struggled, but his skull was probably broken. Did you see these words? Sukyunyu didn't know the existence of the suicide note. When those beautiful words were placed in front of him, he widened his eyes and fell softly to the ground. Xuanhuan. Sukyunyu held his head and cried. Zhang Zizai, this suicide note can't be used as evidence. Xuanhuan was killed by you. You are the son of the dignified Zilan king, and you can't even cure such a small illness. You did everything on purpose. You killed her, I want to avenge her. He struggled on the ground, looking at Zhang Zizai with bloodshot eyes, trying to get up. I'm going to kill you. Kill you. He was like a wild beast, but because of the severe brain damage, he couldn't even coordinate the movements of his limbs, and one of his legs couldn't move at all. Even if he didn't die, his martial arts career would be ruined by such a heavy punch. However, Zhang Zizai was hit by a sword at that time. If he didn't use a heavy punch, he would be the one lying on the ground now. There is another sentence below. Zhang Zizai's fingers trembled, pointing to the bottom of the letter. If my brother did something to let you down, I ask you to leave him a way out. Xuanhuan can't repay you in this life, and can only promise to be your mate in the next life. Zhang Zizai smiled, your sister still understands you. They have been together for a longer time, and Xuanhuan always hears more of his dissatisfaction. He wants to kill him. From the moment Lu Dingxin was injured, he had a strong killing intention until the last punch, which was clean and neat. But this last sentence made Zhang Zizhe struggle. Suqinyu had already lost completely, and lost everything. How could he ignore the girl's last wish? At this point, everything was relieved. He felt that it was time to turn the page. Even if Suqinyu was hysterical, he didn't care. Keep it well, your baby. He threw the flying eagle sword in front of Suqinyu. Thinking of the gift he had worked hard for 3 months, it was thrown away. He turned around and returned to Ruohua. Zhang Zizhe, suddenly, he called himself. Zhang Zizhe turned around. Suqinyu picked up the flying eagle sword and raised his head proudly. Remember, I didn't lose to you. You, a waste, are not qualified to defeat me at all. I just lost to myself. He suddenly put the long sword across his neck and laughed with blood and tears. I just miss Xuanhuan. I just want to accompany her. Puff. In an instant, he cut his own throat and fell to the ground. Never move again. Suqinyu committed suicide. Zhang Zizhe trembled. Something seemed to be stuck in his throat, making him feel very uncomfortable, but he couldn't spit it out. It was all sour and bitter. There is no winner today. Everyone is sad. He trembled and walked forward, threw away the flying eagle sword, and then picked up Suqinyu's body. Mom, help me prepare a coffin. Suqinyu, this poor man, how could Zhang Shang and others bury him? He said he missed Xuanhuan, and asked Zhang Zizhe to let them be buried together. Ruohua was also not happy, and she was not a winner. She immediately ordered others to do it, and soon the coffin was delivered. In fact, no one has paid attention to Suqinyu for a long time. The dead will always be forgotten. Now, people only look at Zhang Zizhe in awe. If you say that he is not the next Zhang Junjian, no one will believe it. No matter how extreme the way he defeated his opponent was, he won, and it was incredible. Now, Ruohua is urgently using spiritual medicine to heal him. A sword that pierces his body is no small matter. If my guess is correct, this is not the Black Snake Totem, but the Xian level Natal Totem Black Dragon Totem. Dragon, that's the Flame Dragon royal family. It may also be a change in inheritance. After all, dragons and Kylin are actually quite similar. No wonder he can master the Dragon Step and Flame Dragon Punch in such a short time. This Zhang Zizhe is really a late bloomer. He only got his natal totem at the age of 15, but he is so fierce. People were talking about it. Then, what Suqinyu said about his sister before must have been a deliberate slander. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. I heard it from their last conversation. This Suqinyu is really a terrible ungrateful person. In the end, he committed suicide out of shame, which shows that he knows how sinister he is. So, Zhang Zizhe didn't defend himself at the beginning, and didn't kill him in the end. Although he looks like a playboy, he is actually loyal and righteous. Besides, his forbearance is too strong. Today, he is probably going to be famous in the Zhang County. The genius rose after the incident of King Zilan and Zhang Junjian. If it weren't for him, the Zilan mansion would be in trouble today. So, did the Zilan mansion save the Five Veins conference? You can tell by looking at the faces of Zhang Shang and the others. The winner is the king, and the loser is the enemy. After the truth came out, all the rumors were broken. Zhang Zizhe finally understood what King Zilan meant by time will give the answer. Now, time has given the answer. I am too seriously injured. I give up the decisive battle. He had announced it while he was healing. Next, it was Lu Dingxin versus Ruo Xiaoyu. Then, the winner and Zhang Zizhe competed for the first place. The reason for this was that the first place of the Kylin Club could enter the sacrifice temple directly. and the second and third places had to pass the assessment. So, he wanted Lu Dingxing and Ruo Xiaoyu to enter directly, and as for him, he had the confidence to face the assessment. "Boss, you can't do this. If you do this, I will give in too." Lu Dingxing was stunned, and he hadn't reacted yet. He was too kind, and he didn't have the heart to let Xuanhuan die. Now, he was still guarding the coffin, hesitant to speak. "Okay, then let Xiaoyu be the first, and we will go to the assessment." Zhang Zizai didn't care about this. Now that Xuanhuan was defeated, they could freely decide the first, second, and third places. Next, Lu Dingxing pretended to be defeated by Ruo Xiaoyu, and because Zhang Zizai gave up, Ruo Xiaoyu unexpectedly became the first place of the Kailan Club. But everyone knew who the real first place was. The Kailan Club ended. In fact, from the moment Xuanhuan was defeated, the faces of the three-veined Kailans were already extremely ugly. Zhang En, Zhang Yan, and Zhang Ling stood there like puppets. They had completely failed. The Kailan Club had gained nothing, and the Zilan Mansion had produced a person like Zhang Zizai, who had a promising future. If Zhang Zizai could really cultivate to the Saint Body realm, he would be crowned directly and become the new Zilan king. Zhang Junduo and Zhang Lingqing hadn't left yet. At this time, the two of them lay together and looked at each other, their eyes full of fear and despair. "Why, it's impossible," Zhang Junduo was barely breathing. "Brother Qinyu, he's dead," Zhang Lingqing, needless to say, burst into tears. "What are you crying for?" Zhang Ling cursed. She was in a bad mood and said, "After all, they are all outsiders. If they die, it's useless." Zhang Lingqing cried even harder. "But, we have slept." "What did you say?" "Shut up," Zhang Ling was really furious. She had warned him not to mess around before getting married, but now Xuanhuan was dead, and she said it in public. If it got out, her reputation would be ruined. With the current social atmosphere, Zhang Lingqing would never get married again. "I don't know, wow. Sister Ling, stop scolding her, no one could have thought of it." "Today, we were completely defeated," Zhang Shang said coldly. In fact, his heart was bleeding. This was the best opportunity. Now, Zhang Zizai's reputation was so great that he could be feared by the Zhang county. Even if there was no Zhang Yunding or Zhang Junlin, there was still him in the future. Once he became a Saint Body realm and the new king was crowned, he would have nothing to do. For him, Zhang Zizai's future was even more terrible than today's failure. This made him, who was always calm, a little absent-minded at this time. As for Zhang Su, he had been yelling and cursing for a long time, and now he wanted to kill everyone he saw. The Council of Elders, those who are neutral, have now completely turned to him. After a direct defeat, Zhang En was furious. Everyone around him seemed to be scared, especially when they heard the Black Dragon Totem. At this time, Zhang Yuan announced the top 3 of this Kailan conference. The 4th place, Xuanhuan, was vacant because of suicide. A total of 10 people are qualified to go to Yanlongxiu and join the school there. When Zhang En heard this announcement, he clenched his fists even more. He glanced at Zhang Zizai, and the young man sat cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed. He saw it. This person actually opened his spiritual orifice during the battle. The son of the Purple Scale King, once awakened, will it really be so terrible? I don't believe it. Without the protection of your father, you can live to the Saint Body realm. Zhang An's eyes were full of murderous intent. But he laughed again, and after Zhang Yuan announced the official end of the Kailan conference, he laughed out loud. "Palace Master Zhang Shang, is there any good news?" Zhang Yuan asked calmly. Zhang Entropy nodded and said, "There is indeed a great event. I just received news that a distinguished guest from the Yanlong ruins has arrived in the royal city. All the children of the Kailan royal family, please welcome the arrival of this distinguished guest." His sudden words made Monk Zhang confused. However, Zhang Li and Zhang Ling were very surprised when they heard this, and they couldn't help but smile. They cast provocative glances at Ruohua. Ruohua Ime frowned slightly, wondering whose arrival made them so confident. At this time, Zhang Entropy shouted into the distance. "We, the Kailan royal family of Daejiang County, respectfully welcome the royal envoy, General Jingzi, Lord Nangongke." The sound penetrates heaven and earth. Nangongke, as an envoy of the royal family, is also the famous general of Jingzi. His official rank is higher than that of Lu Yuan and Zhang Junjian. Hearing this name, Ruohua's eyebrows frowned even deeper. Zhang Zizai opened his eyes and said, "Isn't this person the one who fought with his father when he was young and was beaten by his father until he knelt down and begged for mercy?" Of course he knew General Jingzi. He was considered powerful in the Yanlong dynasty, but he was incomparable to King Zilan. Ruohua said, "It's him, but this time is different from the past. We only have orphans and widows. Moreover, he also has the status of a royal envoy, and was sent by Emperor Yanlong. Then, the meaning is different. Such people will obviously cause huge trouble." Sure enough, as soon as Zhang An finished speaking, laughter came from the distance. The laughter was originally far away, but it came in the blink of an eye. Zhang Zizai was shocked to see a middle-aged man with a pair of huge golden wings sprouting from his back. Those wings were phantoms, but they allowed him to fly through the air. In the blink of an eye, he reached the top of everyone's heads. This man was wearing dark green armor, with disheveled hair and a sloppy beard. He looked like a street gangster. He was holding a huge wine bottle in his hand and his face was red. He was obviously an alcoholic. However, on that hairy face, there was a pair of golden eyes, like a goshawk, which gave a creepy feeling to whoever was being stared at. He is the general of Jingzi, Nangongke, and he is from the Tianpeng clan. This time, his identity is that of a royal messenger. As expected, there are still many beauties in the southern countries. Among the southern countries, the most beautiful one is Ruohua Beauty. The middle-aged man Nangongke just arrived and looked at Princess Ruohua with hot eyes. He didn't even pay attention to the playful smiles of Zhang An and the others. He is flying all over the world, feeling like he is dominating the world. His divine power can only make ordinary people tremble. King Zilan, this idiot, betrayed the country by leaving such a beauty alone. Ruohua Beauty, have you been lonely recently? Nangongque's reputation was extremely poor in the Yanlong dynasty. However, the clan behind him was huge and powerful, and his own strength was also quite top-notch, so no one could do anything about it. Throughout the dynasty, the women who were violated by him and the people who were killed by him can be said to be countless. What does the Yanlong Emperor want to do by sending such a person to Daejiang King City? Ruohua is naturally disgusted with this person. Nangongke, you just dared to act wild here while he was away. If you had the ability, would you say this in front of him? Who knelt down to beg for mercy and called him grandpa. Princess Ruohua is not someone to be bullied. However, Nangongke is also difficult to deal with. He was not angry, but said with a smile, "So what? Does he dare to come back? Anyone who abandons his wife and children like this should be despised by everyone." He took a sip of wine, put away his smile, suddenly became serious, and said loudly, "Listen up, my lord, the general of Jingzi, the royal envoy, Nangongke. This time, I came to Daejiang King City under the imperial decree. Investigate the Huangtian Pass incident and find out the accomplices who have betrayed the country and harmed the people. We have the privilege of killing them first and reporting them later." Sure enough, with the Flame Dragon Emperor behind him, it would be difficult to deal with such a shameless guy. He smiled again, looked at Ruohua with hot eyes, and said, "And you, Ruohua, are the biggest suspect in my trip. If you can be gentler to me, I can be more merciful outside the law. As soon as these words came out, people fell silent. Yanlong Emperor, indeed, still wanted to investigate, and he sent Nangongke. He represents the Yanlong Emperor at all times. If he targets the Zilan mansion, it will be difficult to deal with him. The key is, how could he not deal with Zilan mansion? He will never forget the humiliation of that year. Of course, the days are long, let's take our time and play. If I'm well served, I'll be in a good mood and won't bother to cause trouble to everyone, right? After saying that, he drank and laughed. Brothers, come up. Arriving at the altar of origin, there was a sudden sound of shaking on the ground. A group of people came galloping in. Several people were unable to dodge and were directly hit to death. The scene was stained with blood. This is his army. They are all the elites of the Zhengzi army, and the ones riding on their crotches are all ghost fire horses. The jet black horse was half taller than an ordinary horse. It was huge, with red eyes, and the hair on the horse's hooves was burning with blood-red flames. It had just come in and was breathing heavily, which was very scary. The soldiers on it are all at the Xuanmei realm or above. Zhang Zizai never expected that he would also see many people from the Kailan royal family among this team. For example, Zhang Yuan's children, Zhang Junhuan and Zhang Yuxing, studied at Yanlongxiu Academy. For example, the real son of Zhang Entropy of Hualin Mansion, the 16-year-old Zhang Zhengzi who ranked first in last year's Kailan Association. This was last year, when the top genius who defeated the invincible opponent at the Kailan conference directly awakened the Xian-level totem. However, in the same year, Zhang Entropy got the source of evolution for him and evolved into an Earth-level totem, which is equivalent to starting Earth-level totem. For many years, he was second only to Zhang Junjian. Of course, there is another person who Zhang Zizai cares about the most. His sister, Zhang Yanning, was dubbed the most beautiful woman in the Daijian County. I felt pity for her when she was surrounded by a group of Zhengzi troops. Only when she saw Ruohua, her nervous heart relaxed a little. Nangongke looked at them and said loudly, "No one can escape the involvement in what happened at Huangtian Pass. Therefore, I brought back all the Kailan royal family from Yanlong ruins. Next, I will accept the investigation one by one. Who has any those who are suspected will be thrown into jail." Many people trembled under his divine power. There are only 2 chapters today. However, 20 chapters have 4,000 words, and 21 chapters have 6,000 words. As you can see from the page count, it is a lot. That adds up to 10,000 words. A normal chapter of Madman is 3,000 words. These 2 chapters are the equivalent of 3 chapters. The reason why it is only divided into 2 chapters is to focus on the key plots so that everyone can read more coherently. Therefore, today can be regarded as 3 updates and 10,000 words. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 22. Nangongke and his party had just arrived at Daijiangqing City, and they obviously didn't know what changes would happen to this unicorn. On the other hand, Zhang Zhengzi, the son of Zhang Entropy of Hualin Prefecture, and the people from the 3 Kailan prefectures who accompanied him must have known about their parents' arrangements at the Kailan conference through letters. For example, Zhang Entropy must have told Zhang Zhengzi about Xuanhuan. In this case, Nangongke should also know. The children of the royal family who came back from Yanlong ruins have now returned to their parents with Nangongque's tacit approval. Zhang Yanning didn't know what had changed, but she finally felt a little more at ease when she saw her mother. She returned to Princess Ruohua, her pretty face as beautiful as a fairy was filled with worry. "Dad, where is my brother Qianyu?" Zhang Zhengzi sensed something was wrong and glanced at Ruohua with a cold gaze, showing no respect. He originally planned that according to the time, when he came back, he should be able to celebrate. Zhang Entropy quickly told the heirs of the 3rd house what had happened. Only then did the people who returned realize that the almost ignored Zhang Zizai had changed so much. Even Nangongke heard it. His golden eyes, full of pressure and gaze that could make even ferocious beasts surrender, were cast on Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai chose to make a crazy breakthrough with the nine-pole dragon diamond technique during the battle, and was hit by Xuanhuan's sword. At this time, with the help of Xuanhuan, he was trying his best to stabilize the fourth spiritual orifice. As for the sword wound in the lower abdomen, because it did not damage the root, the bleeding has stopped under the nourishment of Ruohua's elixir, and he can recover in a few days. Emperor Yanlong said in his imperial edict that he would send people to Dajiangqing City to investigate, and what was supposed to come came as expected. Zizai. Zhang Yanning just heard what Ruohua said about Zhang Zizai's performance today. For a moment, her eyes couldn't help but moisten, not in shock, but in distress. Don't worry, he'll be fine in a few days. Ruohua gently held his only biological daughter in his arms, caressed her long hair, and said, "It's hard for you to stay in Yanlongsu. Mom, I'm not bitter, but I asked many people, but no one was willing to help me, not even to look at my eldest brother." Zhang Yanning's voice trembled. Ruohua shook his head and said, "Tehe prison, where is that place? How could I let you in? There are too many worries at home now, and I can't care about you anymore. Just come back." Zhang Yanning nodded. She looked at Zhang Zizai again, her eyes full of doting, and said, "My younger brother is still better than me. After so many years of failure, he has not given up. It's great. Dad and eldest brother know that he has you will definitely be happy with such a change." Zhang Zizai opened his eyes and looked at him. Blood is thicker than water, blood is connected, and that kind of family affection is unspeakable. 2 years apart, she has taken care of herself so much since childhood. There are always people who want to ruin the beauty of this reunion. At this time, Nangongke and the descendants of the other 3 mansions who had returned had a clear understanding of the changes in the Kailan society today. Naturally, they were particularly shocked by Zhang Zizai's reversal of life. Young people did not know how to hide it like the older generation, and many people could no longer conceal their fear and murderous intentions towards Zhang Zizai. Zilan Mansion suffered a big change and was reduced to such a situation. It was the best opportunity for others, but at this time Zhang Zizai reversed their arrangement. I am afraid that the one who is most uncertain in his heart is Nangongke. The talent of Prince Nan Prince Zhang Junjian had already made him jealous enough. His descendants are absolutely inferior. Now that he finally had the opportunity to add insult to injury, how could he let another genius seedling grow into an uncontrollable towering tree under his own eyes? Nangongke has sent all his troops to Dajiangqing City. How he will investigate next is enough to scare many people. After a short private conversation, Nangongke coughed twice, spit on the ground, cleared his throat, and finally stared at Ruohua, with no trace of rudeness and indecency in his eyes. Zhang Yunding has committed treason and committed a huge mistake, which has caused the destruction of all lives. As Princess Ruohua is the closest person to Zhang Yunding, I am here on this trip. Your Majesty has specially ordered that we must focus on investigating you. I, Nangongke, have the imperial mandate. Naturally, I need to work hard and do my best to complete the task. Only then can I be worthy of His Majesty's trust in me and worthy of the people who died and were injured. He laid the groundwork, and finally smiled and said, "So, from today on, this imperial envoy, the royal envoy, will stay in Princess Ruohua's palace, supervise her words and deeds day and night, and conduct personal inspections. If your Majesty knows about me, it must be a relief to the dragon to be so responsible. Sure enough, so shameless. He has always been a real villain and never hides it. In the entire Yanlong dynasty, he is notorious and everyone wants to hide." Many people in the Zilan mansion naturally became angry when they heard such words, secretly cursing Nangongke for his shamelessness. He wanted to stay in the princess's palace and supervise her personally. Just these remarks were already an unbearable humiliation. In the dead silence, only the soldiers of Nangong tooted and laughed together. Master Nangong is responsible for the emperor's mandate. He actually disregards his precious reputation and fulfills his duties so diligently, which makes us admire him, Zhang Entropy said with a smile on his arms. Zhang Lao next to him was silent and not in a very happy mood. After all, Master Nangong was obviously his competitor. On the other hand, Zhang Ling from the Emolin mansion also chuckled and said, "It's true. After all, the sinner's wife is a huge suspect. Master Nangong can't catch the tiger's den unless he enters the tiger's den." This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. This remark caused another burst of laughter. These people are quite capable of adding insult to injury and bullying women and children. Zhang Zizai naturally remembered everyone's faces clearly. Of course, his mother is not someone to be bullied. Even at this time, her expression remained unchanged. Under Nangongke's hot gaze, she said calmly, "Nangongke, no wonder I look down on you even today. If you want to live in my bedroom, I'll let you live there. I just pretended to be a rat." As for herself, she will definitely not stay there. It is just a place to live, and Daejeon King City has plenty of it. Nangongke was very thick-skinned. He was not annoyed by Ruohua's description. Instead, he sneered and said, "Thank you to Princess Ruohua for your cooperation. However, in order to investigate the results as soon as possible, from today on, you are not allowed to leave me even 10 feet away." Scope. He naturally knew that Ruohua would not stay in the palace. Ruohua's eyes became colder and said, "This is impossible." She was disgusted when she saw this man. How could she stay within 10 feet of him? "You dare to disobey the emperor's order." Nangongke suddenly stopped smiling, his voice was cold, and he shouted. He had killed many people, and his body was full of evil energy. "How dare you claim to be the emperor?" Ruohua's aura was stronger and not weaker than the others. "Haha," Nangong Klang laughed and said to the people behind him, "Send it up." Immediately, a team of people dragged a carriage in front of him. Nangongke stretched out his hand and the door opened. A long box with a golden dragon relief appeared in his hand. He opened the long box with a solemn expression. Took out a golden sword from inside. The golden sword was majestic and domineering. The hilt was the head of a golden dragon. It was still burning with fireworks. There were obvious lines on the sword, which were obviously totem lines. This is a totem weapon, and it is an unknown level higher than Sukyunu's flying eagle sword. One look at the totem pattern, which vaguely resembles a lifelike dragon, tells you how high the level is. Holy Dragon Emperor Sword. Seeing this sword, most of the elders couldn't help but exclaim. Nangongke raised the Holy Dragon Emperor Sword, his eyes burst into cold light, pointed at Ruohua, and said word by word, "Your Majesty has given me the Holy Dragon Emperor Sword. With this sword in my hand, it is like your Majesty is here in person. My life comes from imperial order. Princess Ruohua, do you dare to disobey me? I have the Holy Dragon Emperor Sword and I can kill you on the spot." He no longer had a playful smile, but became fierce and domineering. The sword blade pierced with golden light. He was not joking at all. Even the army behind him did not dare to laugh at this time. At this time, Zhang Zizai had initially suppressed and stabilized the fourth spiritual aperture Mingmen point. He stood up and stood with his mother and sister. It was the first time that he was so close, facing the edge of the Holy Dragon Emperor Sword. Stand. It feels very different. Just like the Flame Dragon Emperor, ruling the world, standing in front of you. There was a feeling of facing the imperial edict that day. It was a feeling that I still felt like a god. But today, he had enough courage to stand firm, not for anything else, but because the two around him were the people he would protect even if he risked his life. As soon as the Holy Dragon Emperor's sword was released, Nangonkei's aura really suppressed Ruohua's aura. "Do you still dare to object to my arrangement?" Nangonkei raised a smile on his lips and looked at Ruohua. The villain succeeds. Zhang Zizai knew that he was far from Nangonkei's opponent. But with the finger of the sword today, he had already sworn that one day, all of this would be returned to him. But he didn't expect that Ruohua was tougher than he thought. Even under the Holy Dragon Emperor's sword, she still shook her head and said, "Shameless person, filthy villain, even if you hold the Holy Dragon Emperor's sword, you can't change your vulgarity and lowliness. You." Nangonkei was stimulated by these words and finally no longer felt comfortable. Ruohua's toughness was beyond his control. "Very good, are you looking for death?" Nangonkei laughed hoarsely. "Stop talking nonsense, do you have the ability to take me down?" Ruohua said. Although Zhang Zizai was not in their realm, he knew that Ruohua was very strong and Nangonkei might not be his opponent yet. They are all at a level above the holy body realm, after all, they have been practicing for decades. With Zhang Yunting's guidance, how could Ruohua's cultivation level be so low? These words really made Nangonkei grit his teeth. Because he was indeed not sure of defeating Ruohua, and defeating or killing Princess Ruohua was not the purpose of her trip at all. However, it would be a big shame if he didn't respond in public. At this time, he raised the Holy Dragon Emperor's sword, pointed it to the sky, and said loudly, "I obey the Emperor's order." Princess Ruohua, if she disobeys the Emperor's order to investigate, she will be thrown into the evil prison of the royal city from now on, and she is not allowed to go out or visit. Until the suspicion is cleared, if you are not convinced, I will report it immediately. This person is involved in treason and rebellion. He wants to personally monitor Princess Ruohua, which is an unreasonable and excessive request. If Ruohua refuses, the world will find it excusable. However, he wanted to put Princess Ruohua into a cell for investigation. This was a normal procedure, and Ruohua could not refuse. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 23. The Evil Prison. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. This is the great Zhongqing city, where the most heinous criminals are imprisoned. Today, it is actually used to imprison the mistress of the great Zhongqing city. The storm brought by Nangonkei's arrival is indeed beyond Zhang Zizai's imagination. What is his purpose? Is it the intention of the Flame Dragon Emperor, or is it purely for revenge against Zhang Yunting? This guy really hit Zhang Yunting very hard at the beginning, and he must be holding a grudge. Now facing an orphan and a widow, it would be unreasonable not to take revenge. My father is fine, he dare not even come to the great Zhang County, but now he wants to imprison my mother in the evil prison. Zhang Zizai's blood is surging, and his chest is burning with anger, ready to explode at any time. That is his reverse scale. Opposite him, Nangonkei didn't even look at Zhang Zizai, and continued to announce, "The rest of you, return to the mansion immediately, and all those who have close relations with King Zilan will be investigated one by one. As for Princess Ruohua, please." He now put away his obscene intentions and acted like a business. However, under the Holy Dragon Emperor's sword, except for Ruohua who dared to talk back, the rest of the people dared not disobey. Now, all the pressure is on Princess Ruohua. Should she lose her mind and only seek temporary pleasure, and confront the imperial power, which will only bring worse consequences, or choose to endure for the sake of the family and the future? She is shouldering a lot now. At this time, her face remained unchanged. She suddenly turned around and looked at her two children, still smiling on her face. She said, "Xiaobao, Ning don't worry, he can't defeat me, and the evil prison can't trap me." Just think of me changing places to rest. Don't worry about me, understand? Just as Zhang Zizai expected, she chose to endure for the sake of the overall situation. In fact, Nangongke proposed close surveillance in order to force Ruohua to resist, and then take out the Holy Dragon Emperor sword with a legitimate reason. This man is insidious and exposed. He had designed the evil prison long ago. But if they dare to do anything to you, I will kill them. The evil prison is also her territory, and she is confident that she can come and go freely. It's just that her personal freedom is temporarily restricted. This is Ruohua's helpless arrangement. The other party set up a trap for her to jump into. Zhang Zizai is not an impulsive person. He knows that the other party's backer is the Flame Dragon Emperor, so many things are not something he can change. He nodded and said, "Don't worry, mother, I'm here, and I will take care of the family." Now that the family is in trouble, he has a heavy responsibility. Xiaobao is a smart person, and he will never let others bully him. Ruohua's eyes are full of trust and love. Today, Zhang Zizai's performance has made her feel at ease enough. Besides, believe in your father, he won't let you down. Zhang Zizai and Zhang Yuning both nodded heavily. After all, the Zilan king is not dead. Nangongke only gave a little time and immediately began to urge them. He ordered the rest of the people to go back to the palace. Next, his army was stationed directly around the Daejiang Palace. It was obvious that he wanted to put the people of Zilan Palace under house arrest, making it difficult to go out. Zhang Zizai finally managed to keep the votes for the Five Veins Conference, but now Ruohua has been sent to the evil prison, and the Zilan Palace is under house arrest. How can there be a Five Veins Conference? Now, Nangongke has the final say in Daejiang City. After Ruohua was sent away, Zhang Zizai and others were forced to return to Daejiang Palace. Outside the palace, Nangongque's army, the Golden Peng Army, surrounded the place tightly, and there was no way out. Without Ruohua, there was no one in charge of Zilan Palace. In the study, Zhang Zizai, Zhang Yuning, Lu Dingxing, and Ruo Xiaoyu were all here. Zhang Zizai had just had Suqianyu's body buried, but unfortunately he couldn't be there. In the elegant study, the candlelight flickered, just like the swaying hearts of the four young people. Zhang Zizai sat face to face with his sister. He stared at her profile under the candlelight. After not seeing her for a long time, she was still like this, like a fairy who didn't eat fireworks in the world. "Sister, don't worry about mother. What we have to do now is not to let her worry. Now is a time of trouble. We should try to avoid trouble. We can't control the overall situation, so we should try not to stir up trouble." He thought very thoroughly. Kailan Club, he can change it. However, things like Nangongke and Zilan King are the affairs of the entire dynasty. If they intervene, they will only cause trouble. "You said, where is Daddy now?" Zhang Yuning looked out the window, looking confused. Zhang Zizai recalled the dream, and in the end, his father walked into the crack in the sky. "He must be thinking of a way," Zhang Zizai said firmly. Zhang Yuning looked at him, tears could not help but flow down. She said, I heard that my elder brother is in Tai prison and has a hard time." Zhang Zizai stood up suddenly. It must be uncomfortable to be executed. Thinking of childhood. The little things of brothers and sisters, such beauty, may no longer exist. Sister Ruo Xiaoyu was panicked, she was still young, and she was the one who didn't know what to do. In the past, we were so glorious and respected by everyone, but now it has changed. Everyone is kicking us when we are down, and no one dares to help us. This world is really realistic. Zhang Yuning shook his head helplessly. "Yes." Zhang Zizai nodded, suddenly stood up and walked out. "Zizi, where are you going?" "Practice." Although it started very late, only being strong can change everything. "Fierce prison." "Here, the stench fills the sky, and many heinous criminals are imprisoned here for life. They are angry, roaring, numb, and repentant of their crimes, and there are not many of them. In a dark and deep cell, a beautiful woman in palace attire stood tall and graceful, out of place with the overall environment. Outside the cell, Nangongke was leaning against the wall, with a wine bottle hanging in his hand, his face already red from drinking. He squinted at Princess Ruohua and said, "It's now, but you're still so proud." Ruohua faced the wall and closed his eyes to rest. Nangongke sneered, shook his head and said, "I can't figure it out, I can't figure it out. What's wrong with this guy Zhang Yunting? He did such a rebellious thing. He really gave me an advantage." Ruohua smiled coldly and said, "How can I take advantage of you? Apart from pretending to be powerful, what else can you do?" Nangongke took a big sip and said with a smile, "If you are still so rude, I will really be rude." "What a joke, you haven't been polite from the beginning." "That's all, since you haven't tried to please me, and there's no chance for me to have any friendship with the beauty, then I can only deal with business matters." Ruohua said, "You'd better get out." Nangongke received many cold looks and became so angry that he sneered and said, "As for you, I really can't do anything to you, but your 3 precious children are different. They are all amazingly good seeds. Unfortunately, they are all too fragile." Ruohua stared at him, with murderous intent in his eyes. "What do you want?" Nangongke waved his hand and said, "As for Zhang Junjian, His Majesty will naturally handle it. I want to play with these two." Ruohua gritted her teeth and her momentum suddenly surged. For a moment, she might want to kill him right now. However, she held back and said, "You'd better not forget that he is not dead yet. Maybe Junjian, he is difficult to save, but against you, he can only take a blink of an eye. Don't risk your life just to flatter someone." "Haha, I'm so scared." Nangongke threw the wine bottle on the ground, turned around and left. He turned his face, smiled strangely, and moved his mouth, but did not make any sound. Ruohua didn't know, he said something. That sentence is, "I am just waiting for him to appear." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 24. On the second day of the Kailan meeting, Zhang Zizai was still practicing hard, and Ruo Xiaoyu came to call him, saying that the people sent by Nangongke to monitor had come to the door. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. They said that they would focus on investigating the 4 of us. Ruo Xiaoyu was very angry. Zhang Zizai was puzzled. "We? With our age and ability, how could the matter of Huang Tianguan have anything to do with us? This is obviously looking for trouble. Who will investigate?" Nangongke, Zhang Zizai didn't expect that trouble would come so soon. "No, it's that annoying person Zhang Zhengzi, and a person from the Tianpeng clan." The Tianpeng clan, like the Kailan royal family, is an ancient totem clan inherited from the Yanlong dynasty. There is only one royal family in the Yanlong dynasty, the Yanlong royal family. Under the Yanlong royal family, the second largest clan is the Kailan royal family. The Kirin royal family has been in decline for many years. In recent years, it has been supported by the Purple Scale King. With the rise of Zhang Junjian, it was originally regarded as a revival of the royal family. In addition to the royal family and the royal family, there are currently the prosperous 9 clans, among which the Tianpeng clan is one of the 9 clans, and its overall strength is not inferior to the Kirin 5 veins. Even better than the Kirin royal family without the Purple Scale King. Nangongke is the celebrity of this Tianpeng clan. Zhang Zhengzi. Zhang Zizai was of course impressed by him. He is the biological son of Zhang An in the Fire Scale Mansion. He is 1 year older than Zhang Zizai. He ranked first in the Kirin Club last year and won the championship that year, which means he was at the 7th level of the Wuming realm. After all, although he awakened a Xian level totem, Xuanhuan had the ability to find the evolution source wings of heaven immediately after the totem awakened, allowing it to evolve into a ground-level totem Skywing Fire Kirin totem. It is equivalent to starting from a ground-level totem, which is comparable to the top geniuses in Yanlongxiu. In fact, he went to Yanlongxiu last year. He could have directly entered the sacrifice temple, but he changed his mind temporarily and joined the second-ranked Holy Dragon Palace. Now he is an outstanding disciple of the Holy Dragon Palace. It is said that he has made great progress this year and has entered the Xuanmei realm. It can be said that he is second only to Zhang Junjian in talent. He is Zhang Intang's greatest pride and the biggest asset for him to be supported. After the incident of King Zilan, there is a successor. As for why he did not join the sacrifice temple and entered the Holy Dragon Palace, the purpose is more obvious, that is, he wants to be reused by the Yanlong royal family. After all, the sacrifice temple is a place that the Yanlong emperor cannot control. Often, there is always some gap between those who come out of the sacrifice temple and the royal family. Now that Zhang Zhengzi has come, Zhang Intang has more capital. However, the review is Nangang Q's business. What is he doing here? Zhang Zizai and Ruo Xiaoyu came to the front hall. Zhang Yuning and Lu Dingxing were already here. On the other side of them, two young men were standing at this time. The one on the left, wearing a dark red brocade robe, is elegant and noble, his eyes are like burning fire, and the heat waves on his body are striking. His eyes are narrow and narrow. Judging from his face, he is a sinister person with a lot of evil spirits. He is not like Zhang Shang, but he is very similar to Nangang Ke. He is the treasure in Zhang Shang's hand. Besides Zhang Junjian, the top genius of the Kailan royal family now is Zhang Zhengzi, who is even better than Zhang Yuning. Zhang Yuning is also in the Xuanmei realm, but she is 1 year older than Zhang Zhengzi. The other young man, wearing a white robe, is handsome and unrestrained. He holds a folding fan in his hand, and his long hair is neatly tied up, dressed like a gentleman. This person should be a young man from the Tianpeng clan. There were many people yesterday, so I didn't see him, but he can walk with Zhang Zhengzi, so his identity is certainly not ordinary. As soon as Zhang Zhi arrived, the young man in white robe smiled softly and said, "Everyone is here. Very good. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nangang Feng Chen. I am the uncle of Nangang Ke, the general of Zhengzi. I believe I don't need to introduce the person next to me." Faced with his self-introduction, Zhang Zhi and the other four did not respond. Only Zhang Yuning knew him. Looking at her expression, she seemed a little uneasy. Nangang Feng Chen did not feel embarrassed, but continued to smile and said, "I came here today mainly because of my uncle's order to investigate you four. Next, you answer whatever I ask. If you are not honest, there are dozens of soldiers from my Jinpeng army standing outside. My uncle has given me privileges. Anyone who does not cooperate will go directly to the evil prison." As soon as they met, he came to show his power. After saying this, seeing the four people here, such as a little girl like Xiao Yu, clearly showing fear, Nangang Feng Chen was more satisfied. Everyone cooperate, follow the procedure. If anyone throws a tantrum, deliberately makes trouble, and is sent to the evil prison, don't blame me for not saving my brother, Zhang Zhengzi said in a deep voice. "Who is your brother?" Zhang Zizai laughed. "This guy is awesome now. A year ago, he still avoided me when he saw me. You are about to die, but you still can't see the reality clearly." Zhang Zhengzi glanced at him with cold eyes, as ruthless as looking at ants. "Don't waste time, come one by one, start with you, little girl. Everyone else, get out." Nangang Feng Chen laughed and pointed at Ruo Xiaoyu. "Don't mess around, Xiaoyu, if they bully you, call me," Zhang Yuning warned. The three of them were outside, just separated by a door, and they could hear them with a shout. After a while, Ruo Xiaoyu came out with the same expression. Zhang Zizai asked her, and she said that the two people inside just asked some useless questions and let her go. Are they really just here for a formality? Zhang Zizai didn't particularly believe that they could miss the opportunity to add insult to injury. Next, they called Lu Dingxing to come in. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Zhang Zizai still warned them not to be impulsive no matter what they said. He couldn't give them an excuse to cause trouble now. Not long after, Lu Dingxing also came out. These two people are so boring. They just asked me what 1 plus 1 equals. Can I not know? Lu Dingxing was a little confused. This is strange. Although asking this kind of question is also a kind of ridicule, at least it is different from Zhang Zizai's imagination that they are adding insult to injury. Next, they call Zhang Yanning in. This time it took a long time. After Zhang Yanning came out, he lowered his head, worried and a little absent-minded. But there didn't seem to be any fighting inside, just the sound of talking. What did they say? Zhang Zizai asked quickly. Looking at Zhang Yanning's worried face, it was obvious that they had a lot of problems. Before Zhang Yanning could speak, Zhang Zhengzi stood at the door and scolded, Zhang Zizai, I asked you to come in quickly, didn't you hear me? Don't waste my time. Zhang Zizai thought that it wouldn't be too late to ask his sister after they left, so he walked in first, and Zhang Zhengzi closed the door heavily. In front of him, Nangong Fengchen was shaking a folding fan, cracking melon seeds in his hand, and was sitting on a chair shaking his head. He glanced at Zhang Zizai and said with a smile, it's wonderful, 15 years of waste. One day he rose up and shocked everyone at the Kailan conference, hitting so many people in the face, doesn't that feel great? Zhang Zizai nodded and said, isn't that right? A few old dogs are deliberately trying to cause trouble. After I destroy it, it's really nice to see their stinky faces. Zhang Zhengzi said in a deep voice, Zhang Zizai, who do you think is the old dog? I didn't tell you, why are you so anxious? Zhang Zizai waved his hand, looked at Nangong Fengchen again, and said, if you have any questions, just let it go. Don't beat around the bush. You act like a sissy. Do you think you are handsome? The two of them looked at each other, and Nangong Fengchen sat up straight and said, it's very interesting. No little prick has dared to talk to me like this for a long time. This poor guy didn't realize the reality clearly and thought he was the young prince. Zhang Zhengzi sneered. Nangong Fengchen patted the table, stood up, walked around Zhang Zizai, and said with a smile, it's very simple, we only need you to complete a small test for us today, and we believe that the Huangdiangwen incident has nothing to do with you. Then I won't cause any trouble to you. They came prepared. Maybe they didn't embarrass Ruo Xiaoyu and Lu Dingxing, but they obviously had some arrangements for Zhang Zizai and Zhang Yanning. Nangong Fengchen's peach blossom eyes are indeed disgusting. He looked at Zhang Zizai and said, I heard that you have a special hobby. You like to take off people's pants and hang them in the downtown area. It makes people want to commit suicide in shame. Zhang Zhengzi also said, karma and retribution, the evil consequences you sow, will one day be returned to you. This is the way of heaven. Nangong Fengchen continued, so, we adhere to the principle that good will be rewarded with good and evil will be rewarded with evil, and guide you to do not do to others what you don't want others to do to you, so we decided to give you a small, indecent punishment as for you, take the initiative, take off your pants, and run around Dajiangqing City. Today's review will be over, and you can sit back and relax from now on. Zhang Zhengzi smiled and said, speaking of it, it's really a good deal. Zhang Zizai, be careful when doing things in the future. The mistakes you have committed during these years of being a playboy will eventually be punished on your head. Nangong Fengchen put away the folding fan, waved his hands and applauded, and said, what are you waiting for? Let's start walking. If we are late, no one will visit. What a pity. They sang in harmony, as if they were singing in an opera. This was not a temporary act, it was obvious that this was the purpose of their trip. Quite ruthless. What if I don't agree? Zhang Zizai looked at them. Nangong Fengchen blinked his eyes, smiled, and said, "That's okay, the door of the fierce prison is open for you. After your brother and your mother were imprisoned, you are the third one, a family of three, meeting each other in prison, it is wonderful. Wonderful. In fact, in other words, they came today to send Zhang Zizai to the evil prison." This was also instructed by Nangong Ke. They had already made arrangements before they even came to Dajiangqing City. Nangong Ke went so far, was he seeking personal revenge, or did all this come from a higher order? Zhang Zizai couldn't be sure. Perhaps, only my father can give me an answer. But where is he? Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 25. Dad said that adversity is the best medicine for life. I was reborn because of adversity. In the past, mediocrity was my biggest adversity, but now, this biggest adversity has passed. I have such a mysterious black dragon totem. There are heaven-defying cultivation classics. Then, saving your life and making yourself strong is the kingly way. Zhang Zizai knew it very well. Come here. Zhang Zizai refused to obey the investigation and was unwilling to cooperate. He was suspected of being an accomplice in the desolate Heaven Pass incident, so he was temporarily detained in the evil prison. Nangong Fengchen couldn't wait and announced it directly. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of Golden Peng Army soldiers pushed open the door and entered in a line. They looked cold and full of murderous aura honed on the battlefield. These were not ordinary soldiers, but elite troops, at least 30 years old, and each of them was above the mysterious Vein realm. Although there were still many soldiers in Zilan Mansion, no one was in charge of the overall situation, and they did not dare to stop them. After all, the opposite side represented the emperor's order. In the Yanlong dynasty, the emperor's order is everything. What are you doing? Zhang Yuning was obviously not expecting this, and her face was full of anxiety. Sister, it's okay, it's just a change of place to practice. Zhang Zizai just hoped that the three of them would be safe and sound. As for himself, he would bear whatever means the other side had. In this life, I haven't suffered any hardship anyway, so I should fight for this family. No, you wait, I'm going to find. She was about to go out, but suddenly stopped, because she didn't know who to find in this huge Xuanhuan city. In other words, there was no one to find. Be quiet, stay here, there is no hope for your family. Only by being obedient can you live longer. Zhang Zhengzi stared at Zhang Yuning and said meaningfully. Zhang Zizai pouted. Just wait and see who will have the last laugh. Zhang Zhengzi shook his head helplessly and said contemptuously, you still want to have the last laugh, I don't think you can laugh for a moment. Go. Under his command, the soldiers of the Golden Peng Army were about to hold Zhang Zizai. Zhang Zizai was puzzled. Why did he command the Golden Peng Army? Even if he did, it was Nangong Fengchen. You don't know yet, my uncle is also a mentor in the Holy Dragon Palace, and Zhang Zhengzi is his only disciple. Nangong Fengchen shook his folding fan and laughed lightly. No wonder, they are birds of a feather. With this relationship, Nangong Ke will definitely help Zhongshang ascend to the throne and become the new king of the Kailan royal family. When Zhang Zhengzi succeeds, he will be the mentor of the Kailan king. It is not easy to make the Tianpeng clan overwhelm the Kailan royal family and become the second largest clan. Don't worry, I'll be fine, Mom is there too. No matter what, Zhang Zizai still didn't want his sisters to worry too much about him. When you grow up, you have to be brave enough to take on some things. I'll find a way, Zhang Yuning said. Boss. Lu Dingxing hit the stone pillar next to him hard, his eyes red with anger. Stupid ass, let me ask you another question, 1 minus 1 equals how much, haha. Nangong Fengchen chuckled, and together with Zhang Zhengzi, swaggered away with Zhang Zizai. Not long after, the evil prison had arrived. It was extremely dark and stinky, and there were criminals crying everywhere. Everyone listen carefully, this is the son of King Zilan, the son of your great enemy. Is it refreshing to see him come in? Nangong Fengchen laughed while leading Zhang Zizai. Retribution. Haha, retribution. You deserve it, haha. The heinous criminals around were howling. Although they were in the same prison, they would definitely not imprison Zhang Zizai next to Princess Ruohua. Pushing Zhang Zizai into a cell in the corner, Zhang Zhengzi and Nangong Fengchen stood outside with cold eyes. Enjoy your lonely time. When you come out, you may be in your 70s or 80s. If there is any bad news in your family, such as when your father was executed, when your brother was beheaded, I will come in to tell you and accompany you to celebrate. Zhang Zhengzi said. Nangong Fengchen smiled at him and said, of course, we will also inform you if there is any happy event. For example, your mother, your sister, and your sister will have to get married in the future to survive. Zhang Zizai's eyes gradually became cold and fierce, and there was a faint dragon roaring in them. Jumping clown, no need to waste words, you are really happy now, just wait and see. Time will give the answer. Still stubborn, haha, they greeted and turned away. Wait, Zhang Zizai called them. When they turned back, Zhang Zizai said, the men of our Zilan mansion are upright. The evil demons and demons will be wiped out one day. Be prepared. Haha. Naive. The two looked at each other, laughed, and left without looking back. The laughter echoed in the corridor of the cell for a long time. Zhang Zizai turned around and faced the wall. The modeled wall was as broken as reality. The prison door was made of the first-grade spiritual or red-hard iron. He tried but couldn't break it. He was indeed trapped in this dark and cold place. There are many difficulties in life. Men, without going through hardships, can't become heroes and heroes. Zizai, do you know what is most important in adversity? Zhang Yunting once asked him. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Is it the willpower you mentioned? No, it's the sense of responsibility. Zhang Yunting smiled. Zhang Zizai didn't understand at all, but now he understands that when his father and brother are not around, this family needs him to protect it. The sense of responsibility makes him like a madman. Only practice. Only be strong. Taigzi Universe Soul Refining Technique. Yuanqi Sheng Long Sutra. Visualization, Black Dragon Totem. He entered into a state of meditation, sitting in place, to explore the realm and mystery of practice. He started too late, maybe he can't beat anyone at all. But no matter how late, he has to start. No matter how late, he has to catch up. Hey, he's still practicing. Someone spoke at the door of the cell. It was a man in his 30s, wearing black clothes and with a scar on his face. Zhang Zizai had some impression of him. This man was called Wang Kun, and he was one of the jailers of Xiangsha prison. He also had another identity, that is, he was the uncle of the 9-year-old boy Zhang Zhengzhen and the younger brother of Wang Fu. I am so bored, being sent to guard you, a piece of trash. Wang Kun stretched himself, sat at the table, took out good wine and food, and ate heartily. Be quiet, don't make noise, if you disturb my rest, I will trouble you. Wang Kun's eyes widened. Before the day of offering sacrifices to the gods, if this guy saw him, he would definitely shake his head and wag his tail, and now he is also arrogant. However, Zhang Zizai ignored him at all. He was immersed in his own cultivation realm. Now that the 3 battle tactics were already proficient, he focused on training the soul and practicing the 9 extreme dragon drilling technique. Steadily increase the 4 spiritual orifices that have been opened. The Taigzi Universe Soul Refining Technique was very important to him. This was the only way for him to calm down and reach a transcendent state, calm and efficient, and not be affected by the predicament in front of him. The more he practiced, the more Zhang Zizai could perceive the benefits of this spell. What will happen to me at the end of my practice? He was full of imagination about the future. With so much capital, he knew that he could not die. But he also knew that if the catastrophe really came, he would not be able to live in humiliation. The only disadvantage of practicing in this cell is the lack of spiritual stones, and the vitality of heaven and earth here is also extremely poor. Fortunately, Zhang Yuning took it into consideration and sent her a lot of first-grade spiritual stones the next day. "Why did they let you come in to see me?" Zhang Zizai was a little confused, and saw that Zhang Yuning's face was a little haggard. Zhang Yuning smiled bitterly and said, "Let Uncle Zhang Yuan deal with it. I am relieved to see that you are okay." But Zhang Zizai still felt that she was worried, as if she had something to hide from him. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 26. In my impression, the most beautiful woman in Dajiang County has always been incredibly beautiful. Since she was a child, she has been like a lotus emerging from the water. She is the envy of everyone in the royal city, and her appearance is praised by people. But her noble status did not make her learn to be arrogant. Zhang Yuning is very kind. She has helped many people in distress. In the eyes of many mortal insects, in the eyes of totem warriors, she is a goddess. Even if she went to the Huguo mansion to practice, there are still many people in Dajiang Royal City who miss her. In Zhang Zizai's mind, she is careful, quiet, kind, gentle, and has never been sad. She represents all the beauty. But now, standing in front of him is a lost and melancholy woman. Such a big family change makes her like a flower that is gradually withering. "Zizai, don't worry, I will definitely find a way to get you and mother out of here. Let my brother live." Zhang Yuning held the iron door of Chixantai with a fiery look in his eyes. Zhang Zizai said anxiously, "Just stay in the mansion quietly, don't walk around. Dad and Mom will naturally have a way." Zhang Yuning nodded. She wanted to talk more, but Wan Kun next to her coughed a few times and said, "It's time, hurry up. Don't disturb my peace." "Can't you wait a little longer?" Zhang Yuning asked. "Get lost," Wan Kun rolled his eyes. "Go first, the little devil is difficult to deal with," Zhang Zizai said. Wan Kun smiled and said, "I'm beating the dog when it's down." The present is different from the past. Even Wan Kun dared to talk like this. Zhang Zizai glanced at him coldly. To be honest, he was really angry. Zhang Yuning had no choice but to leave first. If she left this time, it would be difficult to come in next time. Seeing her thin shoulders trembling slightly when she left, Zhang Zizai frowned. "Tisk tisk, it's so beautiful. I wonder who will get it." Wan Kun couldn't help but admire. "Watch your mouth. If you lose your life one day, it will be because of your mouth," Zhang Zizai said coldly. "Haha, you yellow-haired boy, you dare to threaten me." Wan Kun cursed, thinking that he could stimulate him, but he didn't expect that while he was still talking, Zhang Zizai had already put out the first-grade spirit stone and entered the state of cultivation. Seeing so many spirit stones, Wan Kun's eyes were hot. Damn, he is so rich. But sooner or later, it will be ours. He. Just as Zhang Zizai expected, Zhang Yuning had no chance to come in again. Every day, he competed with Wan Kun. Zhang Zizai wanted to kill this villain for more than 1 or 2 days. However, this person is the 7th level of Wuming realm, and this realm is definitely stronger than Suqianyu. At the age of 30, he is still in this realm. Among the totem martial artists, he is quite ordinary, even worse than the soldiers of the Jinpeng army. But after all, he has the advantage of age, and he can suppress Zhang Zizai at this time. After Zhang Zizai put a lot of energy into the Taixi universe soul refining technique, his soul underwent some wonderful changes. He had been washed countless times in the river of time, and endured pain that ordinary people could not bear. After each time, his mental will was surprisingly calm and strong. In fact, many times, when his soul was stinging and unbearable, he wanted to give up. If it was before, he had given up. But, as Zhang Yunting said, his sense of responsibility and willpower made him like a madman. Want to give up? Want to rest? Think about the brother who was on the verge of life and death in Yanlongxiu. Think about the mother and sister who were surrounded by villains. As a man of Zilan Mansion, how could he give up? Anyone who can't kill me will eventually be killed by me. The effect of the Taixi universe soul refining technique is surprisingly good. Although it can't make him stronger, after practicing, whether it is the comprehension of the skills and battle tactics, or the subtle control of the vitality of heaven and earth, and even the perception of the entire world, they are all improving. His 9 extreme dragon drilling technique is becoming more and more proficient. In less than half a month, Zhang Zizai completely stabilized the Mingmen A appointment that he had risked breaking through before. Next, he immediately rushed to the next spiritual orifice. The 5th spiritual orifice constitutes an important part of the 9-point totem. The Black Dragon Totem guided Zhang Zizai to the Xuanhuan A appointment. Xuanhuan A appointment, below the Shenke appointment, is the root of Yang Qi for men. When Xuanhuan A appointment is opened, it is majestic and powerful, consolidating the foundation and nourishing the essence, and the true Qi in it is even more powerful. Of course, this is also a key A appointment. Once it goes wrong, it will be enough to affect fertility. At such an important moment, opening Xuanhuan A appointment is indeed a challenge for Zhang Zizai. In the past, it would be difficult for him to calm down and concentrate on sprinting in such a situation. However, the Taixi universe soul refining technique, invisibly, allowed him to enter a state of tranquility and calmness. The power of adversity made him more impactful and motivated. For him, a closed spiritual orifice is like the adversity itself. Only by breaking through it can you become stronger. Only then can you protect your loved ones. 4 spiritual orifices, 4 black dragon Qi, transformed into 9 extreme dragons, roaring and shuttling in the body. The sharp dragon horns pointed to Zhang Zizai's predicament, which was the Xuanhuan A appointment. In the body, there was a violent storm, lightning, and thunder. Boom boom boom. The 9 extreme dragons drilled wildly on the Xuanhuan A appointment. Zhang Zizai's face turned pale, and he was sweating from the pain. Soon, his whole body was sweating profusely. The high efficiency of the 9 extreme dragon drilling technique did bring unbearable pain. However, even the Taixi universe soul refining technique has been endured, so he can still endure this pain. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. No matter how much suffering there is, just grit your teeth and get through it. The pain of the body will never be better than the pain of the heart. Then, only by enduring the training of the body can you get inner joy. Stronger, that is joy. In the cell, there was a black dragon shadow surrounding Zhang Zizai's body, and the dust around him flew around him. Like a giant dragon, awakening in this dark cell. Xuanhuan A appointment, loosening a little bit. Enduring what ordinary people cannot endure, you can get what ordinary people cannot get. Under the impact of Zhang Zizai, the 5th spiritual A appointment Xuanhuan A appointment, opened. I actually caught up with the panda and the monkey in such a short time. The 5th level of Wuming realm. Under the nourishment of the 1st grade spirit stone, the 5th black dragon true Qi dominated the Xuanhuan A appointment. At this time, Zhang Zizai's whole body was full of strength as if it was about to explode. His black hair flew, like a beast, waking up little by little until he shocked the world. Buzz. The 5th black dragon Qi burst out, and the whole cell trembled. He felt deeply that the black dragon chi brought by the 9 extreme dragon drilling technique and the black dragon totem was indeed much stronger than the chi of others. This is not the chi quality of the Xian level totem at all, at least it is the earth level chi. He opened his eyes, and the black lightning on his fingers was flying violently. That was his father's thunder finger. The black thunder of the thunder finger was also particularly violent with the increase of chi, and the electric snake wrapped around the fingertips was particularly strange and cold. The breakthrough brought Zhang Zizai confidence. Even if this strength cannot change anything for the time being, it is at least still improving. He absolutely believes in the horror of the black dragon totem. He stretched out his hand and clenched it into a fist, and the black flame burned on his arm. The sound of the burning flame was the roar of the dragon. In the darkness, the boy's eyes flashed with bloody light. He truly felt his explosive future. Are you sick? Cultivation is so noisy. Are you in a hurry to reincarnate? Unexpectedly, at this juncture, Wan Kun came in disheveled. It should be morning now, and he should still be sleeping in. He is so lazy. No wonder he is over 30 years old, but he is only the 7th level of Wuming realm and can only live as a jailer here. Zhang Zizai was immersed in his own cultivation and didn't want to pay attention to this villain. However, the other party was woken up early in the morning and seemed to be angry. At this time, he stared at Zhang Zizai and couldn't help sneering, "You still have the mind to cultivate here. There is a big happy event in your family. You probably don't know it." "What do you mean?" Zhang Zizai had an ominous premonition. "Your sister Zhang Yuning is engaged to Zhang Zhengzi. They will be married in a month or so. You, as a younger brother, should not miss such a happy event. You really have a good sister who sacrificed herself to save the whole family." Tisk tisk. Zhang Zizai felt like a burning barrel. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 27. Does my mother know about this? Zhang Zizai's voice was extremely cold. She is locked up even more tightly than you. How do you know? Wan Kun was still laughing. He enjoyed Zhang Zizai's extremely angry but powerless look. Without asking, Zhang Zizai knew that this must be Zhang Zhengzi's condition. During the previous review at Prince de Jiang's mansion, Zhang Yanning came out with a bad expression. It was obvious that they had made such a request. Zhang Zizai didn't know what conditions they gave her sister. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Now, he only knows that he must go out. Although, saving one's life is very important. However, he would never act like a coward. Stay there and wait for the next good news. Wan Kun also thought about avenging his eldest brother. The angrier Zhang Zizai becomes, the happier he becomes. "Let me out," Zhang Zizai said in a deep voice. "Dream." While Wan Kun was still laughing, Zhang Zizai appeared in front of the cell door with a whoosh. His fingers covered with black lightning grasped the 2 iron bars of the cell door. "Haha, this is an iron heart, what do you think?" Before he finished speaking, Zhang Zizai let out a low roar, and immediately, a terrifying aura erupted from his whole body. The black lightning had already wrapped around the 2 iron rods, making a crackling sound. Then, he twisted the 2 iron rods and bent them. Wan Kun's eyes widened and he stared blankly. "You." He knew that even he himself could not have such great strength to bend the iron prison door. As soon as he said one word, Zhang Zizai squeezed out from the twisted cell door. Before the god sacrifice day, he was a helpless useless person, even Wan Kun could secretly look down on him. But today, he did such an amazing move in front of Wan Kun, which made Wan Kun's eyes widen with surprise. Zhang Zizai walked around him and was about to leave. "Stop," Wan Kun stood in front of him and sneered, "Well, Zhang Zizai, you want to escape from prison. This is a serious crime that requires beheading. You are finished. Get out of the way." Zhang Zizai's cold black eyes stared at him. Haha, you're dead. Wan Kun was very happy. This gave Zhang Zhengzi and the others more excuses. As the jailer who guarded Zhang Zizai, he also did a great job. He still stopped Zhang Zizai in front of him. He expected Zhang Zizai to take action, but he was not afraid. After all, he had seen Zhang Zizai defeat Xuanhuan with his own eyes. He believed that Zhang Zizai was still not as good as Xuanhuan in terms of true strength. And although he didn't have a totem weapon, he was still at a higher level than Xuanhuan. Watch me take you down. When Zhang Zizai suddenly took action, he also took action. Tong Baiquan. Wan Kun punched out and the air exploded. At this time, he was like a lion. As expected, his totem should be a kind of lion. It's easy for me to take care of you, weakling. By now, he was laughing. But he never expected that Zhang Zizai suddenly disappeared in front of his eyes. Your movements are too slow. His wandering dragon step can be used to its peak in this narrow space. Another half-month gave him many more wonderful uses for this footwork. None of Wan Kun's punches could really hit him. However, Zhang Zizai's thunderous finger poked several bloody holes in his body in the blink of an eye. Seeking death, Wan Kun was furious and picked up a big knife in the corner. 13 slashes of violent wind. The frenzied sword skills and crazy slashes almost cut off Zhang Zizai's arm several times. Their fight caused a lot of commotion, and many jailers watched, but they did not dare to step forward. After all, Wan Kun was the leader, and their strength was much lower. But someone has already reported the news. In the midst of these 13 violent blows, through the blades, I could see the arrogant and domineering face of this person. Zhang Zizai remembered every word he had said during these days. I said, you have to pay the price for this mouth. You, Wan Kun cursed and slashed wildly. When the big knife hit the wall and penetrated so deep that it couldn't be pulled out in a short time. Bump. In the next moment, Zhang Zizai's Yanlong punch hit his chest, making a muffled sound. Wan Kun made a sound, his eyes widened, and he let go of the knife handle. He stared at Zhang Zizai in disbelief with his eyes widened. In a battle, life or death is a matter of seconds. In the next life, when you smile happily, think about whether you have left some room for yourself. Zhang Zizai pushed his body to the ground and cleaned up his clothes. The explosion of that punch shattered his internal organs, and Wan Kun died instantly. Zhang Zizai didn't know why, but sometimes he couldn't control his murderous thoughts at all. Is this person really bullying others too much, or is the black dragon totem influencing me invisibly? There is no answer to this question. But it was undeniable that I felt very happy when I saw the body that fell to the ground, still staring at me with eyes wide open. Rivers and lakes, the world, happy grudges. This is such a world where the weak eat the strong. Killing people, seeing this young man with black hair and black eyes, although not burly, walking towards him like an ancient ferocious beast, the jailers all changed their colors and backed away in panic. Zhang Zizai killed someone. Wan Kun is dead. Such news shook the entire fierce prison. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. No one dared to stop him, and in a short while, Zhang Zizai had already reached the door of fierce prison. In fact, the jailers also belonged to Prince Jiang's mansion. Some people didn't want to go against Zhang Zizai, so no one stopped him. Besides, Wan Kun is dead, and no one else wants to wade into this muddy water. It had been a long time since I had seen the sun again. Standing at the door of this evil prison, I felt that the sun was a bit dazzling. He was like a black storm, and everyone wanted to avoid it. Now he just wants to go back to Prince De Jiang's mansion and ask Zhang Yanning what's going on. This matter must not be allowed to happen. They must have threatened her. As for Zhang Zhengzi, even though he has a lot of halo, he still wants to be worthy of Zhang Yanning and has such delusions. In the past, Emperor Yanlong asked Zhang Yunting if there was a prince he liked that he could match up with, but Zhang Yunting refused. He wants his daughter to find someone she likes. Where, it's Kang Junsop's turn. Just when he came out of fierce prison, unexpectedly, a group of people arrived directly. The leader is the general of Zhengzi, Nangongke. Behind him were Zhang Zhengzi, Nangong Fengchen, and many Jinpeng troops. In addition, there are people from the Kailan three houses such as Zhang En, Zhang Lao, and Zhang Ling. For example, Zhang Junduo is still there, but now, he, who has been deprived of the Shenk point, has no right to speak. They rushed over in full enthusiasm. Obviously after getting the news, they rushed over without stopping. Perhaps they were waiting for Zhang Zizai's opportunity to rebel. Obviously, what he did was wrong, but there are always some things in the world that are unbearable. Even if it is like a moth flying into the flame, he must challenge it. Otherwise, what's the point of living? Here, everyone's face is extremely cold. Nangongke stared at Zhang Zizai. General, Zhang Zizai, kill Wan Kun, a jailer came up and reported tremblingly. What? Wan Kun isn't Wu Mingdi. Zhang Zhengzi first exclaimed that Wan Kun was the one who arranged it because he knew that Wan Kun was at the 7th level of the martial life realm and could suppress Zhang Zizai. Moreover, he had a grudge against Zhang Zizai. There is no doubt that Zhang Zizai, who only defeated the 6th level of the martial arts realm half a month ago, has now defeated the 7th level of the martial destiny realm. He just got the totem on the God's Day a few months ago. I knew at that time that he was definitely a talented youngster and could very well be the next Zhang Junjian. Now, it is even clearer that he is definitely the next Zhang Junjian. This is definitely a threat. Nangongke immediately thought clearly in his mind that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He looked at Zhang Zizai coldly and asked, "Do you know that in our Yanlong dynasty, escaping from prison was a capital crime? If you were caught, you would be punished on the spot. Beheaded." Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 28. Zhang Zizai didn't expect him to come so soon. Of course, he knew that he couldn't die. At most, he went from forbearance to a fight to the death. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The key is that as long as there is Nangongke, sooner or later, they will be killed and the net will be broken, so why should they forbear? Now there are more and more people watching, and there are also many people from the great Zhongqing city. Zhang Zizai is not afraid and shouted, "It's true that escaping from prison is punishable by death, but what I want to ask is, Zhang Zhengzi and Nangong Fengchen, without any evidence, why did they put me in the fierce prison? Before the Desolate Heaven Pass incident, I didn't even have my own natal totem. As the nephew and disciple of the Flame Dragon Emperor's messenger, can I take revenge for personal grudges?" When Ruohua disobeyed orders and was imprisoned, Nangongke and others had an explanation. But Zhang Zizai had no explanation at all, because it was absolutely impossible for him to have anything to do with the Desolate Heaven Pass incident. This is something that everyone in the world is watching. The common people are naturally talking about it. Although there is clear evidence of King Zilan's crimes among the people, some people who are familiar with King Zilan still don't believe it. Now that his youngest son is oppressed like this, there is naturally some sympathy, and the atmosphere of discussion has changed a little. Why do I feel that this royal envoy is not here to investigate, but deliberately tossing Zilan mansion? Don't talk nonsense, be careful of losing your life, their totem martial artists have very sharp ears. The people are terrified. It must be said that Nangongke made Zhang Zizai speechless for a while. This matter has become a big deal. If you want to take the opportunity to kill this youngest son, it seems a little less meticulous. Because this is not the best opportunity. How can you not be meticulous when doing things for the Flame Dragon Emperor? Leaving a little space can make people find flaws. There is no problem with the death penalty for escaping prison. The key is that Zhang Zizai himself should not be imprisoned. Public opinion spreads very quickly. In a few days, the entire dynasty may be paying attention. Moreover, there is the difficult Princess Ruohua. Of course, he will not give up. Nangongke snorted coldly and said, "Don't quibble. Since you have done something suspicious, you were sent to the evil prison just to cooperate with the investigation. Now you have committed a big mistake. Considering the merits of the Kailan royal family, you can be spared from the death penalty, but you can't escape the living crime. Come on, put him in the misfortune room of the evil prison. You are not allowed to go out for 3 years, and you are not allowed to visit for 3 years." 3 years later, everything was over. The misfortune room is the heaviest punishment in the evil prison. Not to mention 3 years, it will be abolished in half a year. Nangongque's punishment is already quite cruel. People were in an uproar, but they could only look at Zhang Zizai with pity. After all, the family has fallen into decline. Definitely, he will be oppressed. However, Zhang Zizai was not afraid, even though he was facing the Jinpeng army of the Xuanhuan realm. At this moment, he had the heroic spirit of one man guarding the pass and 10,000 men unable to open it. But at this moment, he really knew that he could not control the situation brought about by the time of Huangtian Pass. That was the game of the previous generation. If my father was here, they must have been humble. As an elder brother, he made a big mistake. I have the responsibility to teach him. Master, I will catch him. Zhang Zhengzi bowed and said respectfully. Go. Nangongke shook the wine pot with a comfortable expression. Yes, Zhang Zhengzi jumped off the horse, stepped heavily on the ground, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, and walked towards Zhang Zizai. He was extremely proud. Xuanmei realm. There is a big difference. However, even when facing him, Zhang Zizai was particularly straightforward. In front of thousands of people, he was ready for battle directly. If you want to make a fuss, make it big enough. Now, his only support is the public opinion of the world. Maybe he must be miserable enough to attract people's attention and prevent them from doing whatever they want. Are you trying to fight me? Zhang Zhengzi laughed dumbly. He suddenly quickened his pace and arrived in front of Zhang Zizai in an instant. Bang! That punch suddenly hit Zhang Zizai's chest, and he couldn't resist it at all. Zhang Zizai flew back 3 feet, and blood was already flowing from the corner of his mouth. The force of this punch was so fierce, and the feeling of suppression was really unforgettable. He licked the blood on his lips with his tongue. Come again. To Zhang Zizai, he was indeed a strong man. After all, he had been practicing for 7 years. But from the perspective of talent, Zhang Zizai looked down on him. Come. Haha, Zhang Zhengzi sneered again. Xuanmei realm, is it a level that a beginner like you can imagine? Zhang Zhengzi walked up again step by step. Seeing this battle with clear distinction between the strong and the weak, anyone knows that this is Zhang Zhengzi bullying the weak. The young prince Zhang Zizai, who has only practiced for a few months, is indeed pitiful. After practicing for a few months, he has the courage to fight against the Xuanmei realm. I didn't expect that the young prince actually has such a heroic heart. It's the same as the prince a few years ago, but the prince rose to prominence at a young age, but the young prince, but late bloomer. It's too late. If he had awakened the totem at the age of 9, he could have killed Zhang Zhengzi with one finger today. In fact, their family is all good. The things about the desolate heaven pass are really hard to understand. Yes, for example, Princess Ning, how many people in distress have she helped over the years? More and more people are watching. Seeing Zhang Zizai being knocked down several times, but still standing up, although his body was covered in blood, his high morale was not at all inferior. Instead, Zhang Zhengzi was a little manic. Are you really looking for death? How can there be such a person who can't be killed? He didn't remember that this guy was so tough. It's not the toughness of cultivation, but the mental will. How dare he confront someone like Nangongke? Tie him up, stop making trouble. Nangongke saw that if this continued, the public opinion would be unfavorable to him. He knew that this was Zhang Zizai's cleverness. The more he made trouble, the more trouble he would have in the future. Okay, Zhang Zhengzi took out the rope, and there were several Jinpeng soldiers behind him, who wanted to work together to capture Zhang Zizai. So many people, bullying the little prince, it's really. Many people couldn't stand it, but they had no choice. Suddenly, the crowd dispersed, and Zhang Zizai vaguely heard the voices of many people praising. So beautiful. It seemed like someone was coming. He wiped his eyes with his bloody fingers. Suddenly, he saw a woman in a white dress entering his field of vision. Although his eyes were blurred by blood, the feeling at that moment was amazing. How can there be such a beautiful person in this world? He was moved. That feeling was completely different from seeing Zhang Yuning. Zhang Yuning was her elder sister after all. No matter how beautiful she would only have family affection and respect in her heart. But this woman was not a relative, so at that moment, the impact of her beauty was thrilling even at such a time. Not only her face, but also her voice was so beautiful. It was a soft, seductive, and gentle voice, like speaking in your ear, which made people numb all over. She said, "Who is it, bullying our people in the temple? Who could she be?" Today is Monday, 4 chapters updated. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 29. To be honest, it is no longer easy for him to stand still after being punched several times by the Xuanhuan state. The blood on his hands was wiped on his eyes, and his vision was full of blood. The more he wiped it, the brighter it became. He tried his best to see clearly the woman in the white dress, but unfortunately he still couldn't see clearly. But even with his blurry vision, the woman's unparalleled elegance and tenderness still gave him a strange feeling that he had never experienced in 15 years. This woman's delicate body and appearance were like a whirlpool, attracting everyone's attention, and Zhang Zizai was not immune to this. Even though it was blurry, I still felt that it was a face that could not be described in any words. The eyes, nose, and lips were all like God's most perfect masterpieces. The combination is even more perfect and breathtaking. With her waterfall-like long hair, snow-white skin, and exquisite figure, every inch is full of thrilling attraction. Especially that figure, for the young Zhang Zizai, it was simply too perfect and could not be compared with any little girl. The long, round legs, the slender and powerful waist, neither fat nor thin, just right, and the fullness of the chest is even more imaginative. But all of this is nothing compared to the soft and charming smile on his face, which makes people intoxicated. Such a woman is a natural enchantress, which can be said to bring disaster to the country and the people, and to be the most beautiful woman in the world. Compared with her, Zhang Yanning seemed too pure and there was no way to compare. This may not be the difference in facial features or body shape, but the natural charm of demeanor, posture, eyes, movements, and voice. No wonder, when she first appeared, so many people couldn't help but marvel. Even Nangongke and the others' eyes widened for a moment, as if they were crazy. Perhaps, she has long been accustomed to this, being the focus of people's attention. Her eyes fell on Nangongke, and the moving voice sounded again, "Master Nangong, this little guy is a disciple of our temple of sacrifice. No matter what mistakes he makes, it will be handled by our temple of sacrifice ourselves. Nangong sir, can you give me this face?" Zhang Zizai heard it, and she actually seemed to be protecting herself. "However, there is no intersection between me and this fairy-like woman who has conquered the country. Moreover, she still needs to pass the qualification test before she can truly enter the Temple of Sacrifice. How could she just directly say that she is a member of the Temple of Sacrifice? Only then did Nangonke react. He shook his head, as if trying to avoid being immersed in the woman's appearance, and said, "It turns out to be the 9 Immortals girl, the priest of the sacrificial temple." "Ah, and Mr. Xiao." He trembled slightly, because it was only then that he saw an old man with white hair standing next to the woman in the white dress. The white-haired old man was tall and thin, with an old-fashioned expression and a calm and powerful expression. He was dressed in a black robe and looked particularly neat and tidy. Zhang Zizai had just seen this old man. Judging from Nangonke's reaction, this Mr. Xiao should have a higher status than the 9 Immortals girl. He should be a highly respected figure, and he should also be a person offering sacrifices to the temple. The Temple of Sacrifice is a holy place for worshipping the ancient gods, the birthplace of totem martial artists, and the place where Zhang Zizai once dreamed. Of course, it is also the dream place for almost all totem warriors. Only people like Zhang Zhengzi would give up worshipping at the temple and go to the Holy Dragon Palace. Zhang Zizai thought of the 9 Immortals girl. Even in Dajiang City, he had heard of her reputation. According to legend, her appearance was enough to cause unrest, but not many people had actually seen her. It is said that her origin is very mysterious and she seems to appear out of thin air. Her identity is the youngest priest in the Temple of Sacrifice. In the Temple of Sacrifice, the status of the priest is already very high. For example, if Zhang Zizai entered the sacrificial temple, he would be guided by a priest, and each priest would have at least hundreds of elite disciples. Moreover, she seems to be the highest status being in the sacrifice temple, a disciple of one of the divine attendants. Because he was far away in Dajiang King City, there was only so much information about this person that Zhang Zizai could know. He didn't expect that he would be here today and have some interactions with such a legendary woman. Of course, she should be older than Zhang Zizai, probably about 10 years apart, and her strength should be unfathomable. In my impression, the world's positioning of her mostly uses the words beautiful and mysterious. I was really shocked to see him in person today. As for Mr. Xiao, although his status and strength are higher, he is not as impressive as the 9 Immortals girl. So much so that even Nangonke didn't see him at first. When he came back to his senses at this time, Mr. Xiao must have felt unhappy. He smiled coldly and said, "It turns out that in the eyes of Lord Nangong, I, Xiao Yushan, is still there." Nangonke smiled awkwardly and said, "The main reason is that Miss 9 Immortals is too charming." He paused, then became solemn and a little wary, and asked, "Miss 9 Immortals, what do you mean just now?" "As far as I know, this Zhang Zizai is not a person who worships the temple. First, he hasn't arrived at Yanlong ruins yet. Officially enters. Secondly, he is not the first in the Kylin Association, and he still needs to pass the examination of your temple." The 9 Immortals smiled softly and said, "That's not easy yet. Today I will announce that he has officially entered the profession and does not need to take the assessment. As a priest, she does have this right." But Nangonke couldn't understand, why did she do this? He knew that this woman was also very difficult to deal with. He raised his voice and said, "Sorry, I am executing the Emperor's order to punish the suspect of the Huangtiangwan incident. Even if he is a disciple of the Temple of Sacrifice, there is no exception. You too, this matter is very important, and it is related to the sacrifice temple. It doesn't matter to the temple, don't get into this muddy water." This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Anyway, he has the Holy Dragon Emperor sword. Unexpectedly, the 9 Immortals girl did not give up. Lord Nangong is really stingy. Everyone knows that this little guy has absolutely nothing to do with the affairs of Huangtian Pass. If he just beats to death a jailer, he is one of their own from the Zilan mansion, and it is not Lord Nangong's turn to come. Never mind. I just have to protect him today, Master Nangong, what can you do to me? She raised her chin slightly, and the sun shone on her face. Zhang Zizai finally saw her pretty face clearly, the way she looked under the warm sun, with her hair swaying in the wind, and her charming face at this time. The tone and the image are simply engraved in my mind. With her taking the lead, many people nearby agreed. Yes, how could the young prince have anything to do with the affairs of Xuanhuan? He is only 15 years old. A few months ago, he was not a totem martial artist. Zhang Zizai's efforts have paid off, and public opinion has changed. Next to him, Xuanhuan said, Nangongke, okay, give me some face and forget about it. The people and the temple all inexplicably sided with Zhang Zizai, which made Nangongke understand that he had encountered a problem today. He didn't know why these two people appeared here to protect Zhang Zizai. But it was obvious that it would be very difficult for him to punish Zhang Zizai today. If he had to force it and spread the word, it would be very detrimental to his future work. After thinking for a while, he suddenly smiled and said, of course, since Mr. Xiao and Miss Juxian have spoken, I will not pursue Zhang Zizai's fault for the time being. Zhang Zizai, why don't you thank these two? To be honest, Zhang Zizai was still a little confused. For the first time in my life, I met such a heartwarming woman. I was so scared that I didn't dare to look into her eyes. Her eyes seemed to be able to speak, and once you take a look, you will fall deeply into them. Zhang Zizai only saw her forehead, which vaguely looked like a small white fox totem, cute and cute. He shook his head, looked at Nangongke proudly, and said, of course I will thank you. It's none of your business. The 9 immortal girl suddenly smiled. That smile was for Zhang Zizai. Her charming look made his heart beat loudly. So cute, she said with a smile. Cute, Zhang Zizai didn't expect that he would be described like this. On the other side, Nangongke was really angry, and Zhang Zhengzi and Nangong Fengchen behind him seemed particularly unwilling. But they had naturally heard of the reputation of these two people, and they didn't dare to make any mistakes at this time. They could only look at Zhang Zizai with hateful eyes. Nangongke pretended not to hear Zhang Zizai's words. He raised his hands and said to the two of them, I wonder why you two came to Zhangwang City? After all, this is a key place. You don't need to worry about it now. Even if there is a mission to worship the temple, I can't tell you, right, said the 9 Immortals girl. How about I set up a banquet? No need. Let's go. Xuanhuan snorted coldly and rejected Nangongke directly. Nangongque's face twitched, and he was filled with anger, but he couldn't vent it. After all, the people who offer sacrifices to the temple are indeed very hard to deal with. My dear, remember to report to the temple of worship. Juxian suddenly turned around and gave Zhang Zizai a wink, which really melted his heart. He thought he was very calm, but now he knows what it feels like to be entranced. While he was still immersed in it, the woman in the white dress left in the blink of an eye. Only then did he come back to his senses, feeling a little lost, thinking that it would be wonderful if he could say a few more words to her. After all, she saved him this time. After all, she was Zhang Zizai's savior. He should remember this kindness in his heart. Father said, a drop of kindness will be repaid by a spring. I will remember today's kindness. This sudden woman, even though she seemed to be her older sister and much older than him, Zhang Zizai still couldn't forget her. However, the anger of Nangongke and the others has not disappeared. Zhang Zhengzi coughed twice and said, I tell you, go back and prepare. The wedding date has been decided, and you, brother-in-law, also have to prepare 1 or 2 shows to make it lively. Zhang Zizai raised his head and smiled, Toad wants to eat swan meat. Go back and look in the mirror to see if your face is any different from shit. Even from such a distance, I can smell the stench. Nangong Fengchen shook his head, this guy still can't recognize the reality. It's your ancestors' blessing that you can escape today. You will suffer the consequences next. Zhang Zizai was too lazy to tangle with them. Now, I'm out of trouble. He wanted to go back quickly and ask Zhang Yanning what was going on. The 9 Immortals in Swallowing the Sky is a special character. She rarely appeared, but left a deep impression on many people. It also makes the madman remember deeply. However, her time in Tianashanji has ended and it is impossible for her to reappear. The 9 Immortals of the Holy Dragon Totem are not the same person and have no connection with that 9 Immortals. Crazy, I want to write about this type of girl again. I want to make this image more complete and start again. They have one thing in common, they are all foxes. Their differences, you will know when you read on. Holy Dragon Totem. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 30. In fact, something happened to Zhang Zizai here, and Zhang Yanning and the others also knew about it. When Zhang Zizai returned to Prince Jiang's mansion alone, they were also coming here. Why are you back? Did they let you go? Zhang Yanning asked anxiously. After not seeing each other for a few days, she was worried and looked haggard. Let's talk about it when we get back. Returning to Prince de Jiang's mansion, Zhang Zizai recounted what happened. I thought they took the initiative to let you go. Zhang Yanning lowered his head, his eyes full of disappointment. I have something to ask you. Zhang Zizai brought her into his father's study, and they sat down with a coffee table in between. Zhang Zhengzi, what's going on? Zhang Zizai was filled with anger when he saw her current lonely appearance. Of course, it's not directed at her, but at Kong Junsop. She hesitated. Sister, if you have any trouble, please tell me. Now that my parents are not here, we will bear it together. Zhang Zizai pressed her shoulders to make her less afraid. She has a gentle personality and has never experienced hardship. In this dangerous world, she is too simple and easily bullied. Only then did Zhang Yanning relax. On the day of the interrogation, they made this request, saying that if I was willing to agree, Nangongke would let my mother go and stop causing trouble for us. But if I didn't agree, they would haunt me and torture me. Our family has no peace. Zhang Zhengzi is a disciple of Nangongke. He said that this is what Nangongke means. If I marry him, it will be easier for Zhang Entropy to succeed King Kailan in the future. I didn't agree to them, and sure enough, they immediately took you to the fierce prison. I heard that you were in fierce prison, suffering day and night. Now that she saw Zhang Zizai's injuries, she thought it was true. So, you agreed. Zhang Zizai was a little angry. He felt that she was still too cowardly. Zhang Yanning shook his head and said, not really. After you entered, they came to see me every 3 days. A few days ago, Nangongke and Zhang Entropy came, bringing many people with them, and they came directly to get engaged. Although I agreed, but I didn't refuse, because if I refused, I was worried that I would never see you again. She has no one to help her now. She is not strong in the first place. These people get together and come directly to propose marriage. How dare she refuse? They are just bullying her, a weak woman. Shameless. Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth. Sure enough, they announced the matter unilaterally, and it is probably spread out now. If Zhang Zizai doesn't come out, then when the time comes to get married, Zhang Yanning will be the only one who won't dare to resist. As for Princess Ruohua, Nangongke is sure that she used various methods to block the news and prevent it from reaching her. How much longer? They have tentatively decided it will be about a month and a half. Zhang Zizai slowly calmed down. It's obviously to investigate the affairs of Huangtian Pass and lock up my mother for investigation, but why does the purpose seem to be on you? Nangongke went to all the trouble to lock up my mother just so that his disciple can marry you. He couldn't understand. What is their purpose? Didn't Nangongke come to investigate on the emperor's order? If there is no evidence, he can't do anything to Ruohua. Maybe he wants to help Zhang Entropy become the new Kailan king. If his son can marry me, it will be equivalent to Zilan King's son-in-law becoming the new king in the future. It can be considered justifiable. This may indeed be their purpose. No, if that's the case, they should get this done as soon as possible. It's been dragging on for a long time. If mother knows about it and fights her way out, won't they be in trouble? Perhaps, I just want my mother to know and let her come out so that I can find an excuse to convict her? Or, I want to use various methods to torment us and force my mother to recognize this nothingness by herself. Crime. Anyway, it's just to torture them and make them sleepless. Zhang Zizai calmed down a little. He looked at the haggard and panicked beauty and said, "Don't worry. At least you are safe now. At least you still have some time. You can always think of a way." Before he came out, his biggest worry was her safety. Now that he saw that she was fine, he felt much more relieved. As for when the time comes, if they come to pick up the bride, or directly force a wedding, there are still more than 40 days in between, so there is room for them to think of ways. The key point is this. I can't figure out what their purpose is. Is it the position of King Zilan, or does Ruohua need to plead guilty? Or, there are other ulterior plots? Huanglin Mansion, where is Uncle Xuanhuan? So many things have happened recently, but they haven't been seen. Not to mention Xuanhuan, even the elders of our Zilan Mansion, those old people, don't want to see me. They stay behind closed doors or simply go on a long trip. Sure enough, Xuanhuan, this wallflower, is scared. The tree fell and the hosen scattered. That's good. Zhang Zizai clenched his fists. It seems that I can only rely on myself. Don't worry, if they want to do whatever they want, they have to get past me. Now, even his mother is imprisoned by the villain. Zhang Zizai can only rely on himself. Zizi, you can't mess around. In my sister's heart, you are the most important. My brother's life and death are on the line, so nothing can happen to you. Zhang Yanning suddenly hugged him and shed tears. The tears wet his clothes. It is hard to imagine that a group of people came to force her to marry, and she, a woman, was afraid to speak for her brother and family. Zhang Zizai hugged her and stroked her back. Sister. I swear, if anyone touches your hair, I will kill his ancestors for 18 generations. Zhang Yuning wiped her tears and looked at him with a slight smile. Xiaobao has grown up, it's great, he is not that naughty child anymore. It turned out that in her eyes, she has always been that naughty child who likes to put caterpillars in her pockets. Childhood, chasing and playing in this yard, laughing and talking, it was so beautiful. The laughter of the siblings seemed to still echo in the yard. And Ruo Xiaoyu, who was babbling and could not speak yet. But the past can't go back. Zhang Zizai gritted his teeth and looked at the sky outside. It was covered with dark clouds and heavy rain was about to hit. Such a dark world was really depressing. When night came, Zhang Yuning fell asleep on his legs, her eyes still red. Zhang Zizai gently stroked her hair, and did not speak the whole night. At 1800 hours in the afternoon, there will be another chapter update of Sacred Dragon Totem. There will be an update of Tianji in the evening.